Hi, welcome to the broadcast this evening. This promises to be another exciting one. First of all, we want to thank you all for all the support online, all the comments, the feedback you've been giving us. We really, really appreciate that. And we're looking forward to an exciting time. Some of you have said you've talked about the educative nature of these programs. You've talked about the fact that it really speaks to some of the issues that you're going through. And listening to some of the authors, the variety of messages, it has also been very interesting for some of you. So we thank you for all the support we are getting from you. Aki.
Yeah. Just want to mirror that. A big thank you. We appreciate the words you say, the advice you give, the encouragement you give us also. We really do appreciate it, and we hope we're not letting you down.
Yes, yes. And as usual, we're on Facebook now, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram. And today I think we are actually on two YouTube channels as well at the same time, just making sure that we cover the different audiences that listen to our program. So thank you so much for joining. Also, remember you can ask questions. You can reach out to the author with questions you have. If we can't get to your question today, we'll hope to get it to the author and respond to it in the course of the week. So please get those questions coming. Let's get as much out of our author today as we can. Aki.
Yeah, yeah. So we've noticed that we tend to run out of time, so we're going to kick this off pretty quickly.
Yes,
So I say,
absolutely.
so our author today is a motivational speaker, a trainer, and a financial advisor. She holds a doctorate degree in public health from Morgan State University School of Community Health and Policy in Baltimore. She was a former project director at the African American Health Program, Silver Spring, and an appointee to the Governor Hogan's Commission on African Affairs. She also happens to be the pastor of Bright Star Tower in Baltimore. I'd like to welcome Dr. Abimbola Idowu to Author's Corner.
Welcome, Doctor.
Hi. Hi, how's everyone doing?
We're all
We're
good
good.
here.
Also.
How
That's
is
good. So,
Baltimore?
The weather is nice today. It's the sun is out. Is it's not too bad. But we're also wearing masks all over the place. But I'm
Yes.
inside. I have to wear the mask.
Yeah, thankfully we're all indoors. Excellent.
so,
Okay.
so you're welcome, ma. Nice to
Thank
nice to,
you.
nice to have you and all that. And I'm good. I've said quite a bit about you, but I know that's just the tip of the iceberg. And I'm going to ask you the question. So, who is Dr. Abimbola Idowu?
Awesome. Thank you so much. First, I want to thank Interface Media for this opportunity, not only for having me on the show, but actually for taking my idea, taking my rough draft and refining it to the position, where we were able to edit, publish, and now most companies don't do. They help you publish your book, and then you're on your own. But here they are now bringing back the authors and giving us the opportunity to be able to really have a discussion with our audience. So I really want to say thank you very much. And so to go to Akin's question, who am I? Well, number one, I was born in Nigeria. I grew up in Nigeria, and I come from a family that is very tight knit. I also come from a family where my dad was very, very influential. He was a school principal, and so we got the discipline of that. He was in politics. We got the exposure to that, and then he was also in ministry. So he made sure that we were really rounded up. The only thing that, we didn't know much about was how to make money. He didn't teach us, he didn't teach us that one. However, so, I come from that background, and I also come from a background where my dad gave us the women with the female children a voice. He supported whatever we wanted to do. So when he realized that I was interested in having postgraduate education, first he allowed me to come to the United States at the age of 19, by myself. When other people were kind of discouraging him, he said no. I'm glad that I came and I went back. I did him proud. But also, what is most important to fast forward was that when he realized I was interested in going further, he encouraged me. And unfortunately, by the time I could have finished in Ibadan at that time, he passed away. But before he passed away, he handed me over, not literally just in terms of, okay, here's your husband, you are good, bye bye. But he also ensured, he transferred that desire for me to be a finisher to my husband. He made him promise that this PhD course that I have started, whichever way, if I was relocating with him for whatever reason, he was to ensure that I finish it. So that's how, in a nutshell, my journey to completing that dissertation. My husband was very, very supportive, and he made sure that I fulfilled not only my dream but my dad's desire for me.
That is a lesson in marriage counseling on its own.
Marriage counseling 101.
Marriage counseling 101.
101. Oh wow, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. So the book Leave the Nest to Soar. What made you write this book? What inspired you to write?
It's a journey that at times we don't know how it will go. I have a passion for women, for understanding what women go through. And I know my mom used to say something to my dad: oh, you are bringing up your girls not at the right season, in terms of the society does not welcome women. So it has always been, women to be, have a voice. Because my father allowed us, like I said earlier, to have a voice. So, I started to have a passion for things that involve women. And so thereby I started a women's group, that we called Empowerment Forum. And we will come on Saturdays once a month. And we were discussing issues so that, we created an atmosphere that women felt safe to actually talk about some deep issues, some deep struggles. And one year, the Lord gave me this title to share with the women. And we did it. I shared the different topics. Usually we'll have a topic for every month, which is more like, what each of those chapters also represent. So we finished, and I put everything away. Then the Lord brought it back. And I've learned to really be sensitive to the Holy Spirit, that if the Lord brings something back, there is something in it. And I also like to respond to the prodding of the Holy Spirit. So I sat down and I just wrote it. I just wrote it as if I'm sitting there speaking to you. Not anything academic in that sense, but something that somebody can take and feel that, oh my goodness, this person is in this room with me. So that's how the compilation of the topics that we went through at that empowerment forum. And from feedback also that I've gotten, I keep thanking God for that courage that he gave me to be able to actually put it together and send it to people like you guys to say, okay, can you make sense out of this? So the inspiration really came from God, and then from also the women that were in the empowerment forum group. It made sense to them. We talked about many things. We talked about etiquette. We talked about how do you manage family, work, and ministry. Those type of things we talked about within the marriage. What happens, how do you deal with in-laws, how do you, and the most important also that we talked about during those sessions was like, how do we help the younger women to see that the older women have wisdom, and how do we get the older women to see that, look, we need to relate with the younger ones because they are more relevant in the society right now, so they can teach us technology, let me put it that way. So that was really the whole thing. That's where everything came from.
Okay, fantastic. So it's a, I mean,
Fantastic. So
from
it's
this
a,
I've read
I
of it,
mean, from this I've
it's
read
a
of it,
real book.
it's a real book.
It's
I
not
think so.
it's something you can practicalize.
Something you can practicalize.
Yes.
Which is
Yes.
fantastic.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. Akin, over to you.
Yeah, something interesting about what Dr. Idowu has touched on there is the fact that for a lot of people who want to write, sometimes they're thinking of writing about things they haven't experienced. But what I find powerful about what you've just described there is a group of people coming together. And what you're talking about in this book are principles that were shared in the group. People have had testimonies of how the teaching helped them to become
Oh,
better
yes.
people in that group. And you've taken that knowledge, wrapped it up, and built it into something that can help even more people. And that's really
Yes.
powerful because for someone out there who might want to write and maybe saying, well, what do I want to write about? Well, look into your past. There's a story, there is something you have done that's of value that needs to come out. I remember we had another author who had a similar experience, ran a small group. A lot of people got blessed by what was happening in the group, and then she turned it into a book and is even blessing more people. So I think this is
Yes.
this is a real powerful thing you've mentioned there, Doctor. Now let's start to step into some of the questions here because as we read through the book, you talk about some important concepts, principles that would ultimately help someone to grow and to develop. And one of the first things I want to touch on actually, before we go into more detail on the book, you have a structure that you describe in the book. You talk about the points you want to make, then you have action points, and going on from action points, you then have a section on declarations. Why did you choose that format?
Well, again, it's come from the experience. A lot of times you read books, but it doesn't have the structure. A lot of times you read books and you will say, oh, I'm going to jot that down, I'm going to write that down, or this idea dropped into my spirit as I was reading it, but then you get distracted, and for whatever reason you might find yourself not having the opportunity to go back to it, if not even forget all about it. So that structure became something that I have used. I read a lot, and you will see I'm always scribbling at the side, because I feel that if I don't scribble what I'm just perceiving, what I'm receiving down immediately, the tendency is for me to forget. And we have this general saying that the richest reservoir of ideas and resources are where they are in the cemetery, because people didn't write them down, so people didn't follow up on them, and they went to their grave with them, not benefiting anybody. So that structure was very, very important for me. It was something that, I used when I was also going through my doctoral degree, because, I went in very late. I started at the age of 50. So, there were a little bit of various challenges. So I have to be declaring to myself, I had to be saying to myself, you can do this, you can finish this. So it was my own declarations. It was things that I spoke to myself. So it wasn't something somebody else wrote down and I'm reading. So that is really why I use that structure, that as you are reading it, something drops to your spirit. There's the space there, quickly write it down. And then the declarations, there are those positive statements that we don't realize how much it turns into energy, for you to move forward, for you to go on and do something. So it resonated with me that this is something that I need to help people get to, especially if you want to get to the mindset of I can do it. I can do it. So writing your declaration, reading it out, it becomes part of you, So if you want to give up on something, it just comes back to you, because you have been saying it. So that's what made me to really make sure that I included that.
There's something I want to pick up on there. You said you
Okay.
started your PhD at 50.
Yes.
So in a sense, that's another example of you having achieved whatever you achieved up to that point. You still felt that even though you were at 50, going for a PhD was still something that you wanted to do.
Yeah. I needed to get out of the age nest, if I can put it that way, that, don't limit yourself. In fact, when I got my admission, one of the things somebody that I really respected his opinion said is that, have you forgotten your age? And it's like, no, I'm not going to limit myself into that nest that, I can't, my brain cannot take anything anymore. And like they always say, because my background was really in human resources or personnel, my master's degree was in training and development, so I worked in a bank in Nigeria for 10 years in the personnel department. So I had to, and then when I moved back to the United States, it was like, okay, do I just want to be doing like temp jobs until I got a permanent job, or that thing that my dad encouraged me about, my husband kept reminding me about, and just really saying that, okay, I'm not going to stay in the comfort zone of just getting a job. I'm going to challenge myself again and move up higher.
Wow.
So that means that you see, this is an interesting point you raised, Doctor, because some people will say, well, we're too old. Some people will say, well, my time has passed. The time for me to do these things has now gone. But what you have done here is you have said age is not going to be a blocker. You have taken some of the words, which now that you're talking, I'm even seeing it as prophetic words that someone had said, your dad had said, look, I would like you to do this. You've taken that, and with the help of your husband, you fulfilled that dream. Those are
Yes.
powerful points there. Really powerful points.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Lovely. I mean, the one thing, I mean, if you read this book, one thing that you will definitely get from it is that you will feel motivated. There's no way it's full of motivation. And, I was just thinking, with the current pandemic, how it has forcefully pushed people out of their comfort zones. What would you say to someone who's had to leave the nest, but they don't know where to go from here?
Well, number one, they have to choose, do I want to soar or do I want to sink? Because we don't want to look at what has happened now to be a limitation. And if I can even shock you a little bit further, was that after I left my African American job and I really wanted to just have an easy period, I realized that there was one thing I didn't know. Remember, I said one thing my parents didn't really teach us was, how does money work? So I ended up again jumping into finding out more into the financial industry. So what we are going through now again is a demonstration that, look, whether you were forced out or you chose to come out of that nest, this is also the pandemic is shaking all of us out of our comfort zone. On a personal level, for instance, you might have lost your job. Maybe you've never thought about going into entrepreneurship. This is the time now that, okay, look, I'm going to face my fears about numbers. I'm going to face my fears about not understanding what is written in Washington Post or something like that. So you face it. And, there are people that are out there. So here am I, finding myself also in the financial industry and taking people by the hand to say, hey, yes, you may have lost your job, which has pushed you out of your comfort zone. But you know what? Here is another nest waiting for you, that you can get into. We can look at the societal level. Yeah, on the societal level, again, the pandemic has shaken us into, pull the rug of rat race that we found ourselves in, for us to step back and just say, how can I show more love? How can I show, more be caring more, instead of just focusing on, I've got to make it, I've got to make it. So that has happened. And then we find organizations also that's shaking them out of their comfort zone, and they are saying, you know what, for us to survive, we have to find other things that, we will introduce our workforce to. So you look at this book, and the current pandemic has really shaken the whole world, and at various levels. Like I said, in the personal level, the organizational level, the societal level, a new normal is becoming a way of life. So, do you want to sink coming out of the nest, or do you want to soar?
So,
And that's why, with this book, it gives you some step to step things that you can do, to get you there.
Now, Doctor, you talk about something
Yes.
here in I think it's chapter 2 of the book, and
Okay.
I'll quote what you said.
All right.
You said, "In the nest, you are always a receiver, never a giver, always waiting for a hand to feed you. But the Lord is saying, there is much more out there prepared, ready for this." When I saw that, one of the points that really stood out for me is that a lot of people pushed out of the nest don't necessarily succeed. And the reason they don't is because they kind of blame where they're coming from. I was pushed. They've taken away all the things that I know to do. But let's discuss this, because what you're saying here is that there is much out there prepared, ready for you. How do you get to a point? How do you tell somebody that that bitterness that is starting to creep in shouldn't be there because it's blocking them from seeing what God wants them to see?
Yes. At times, we people find themselves, especially when they are pushed out, they now look at the problems. They fixate themselves so much about what has not happened, instead of, and then which now becomes, like you said, what I can describe as a negative energy. And when you have the negative energy around you, you are always looking at the downside of something. And the world or the environment you now create around yourself will find a way is of being like a cloud, a heavy cloud that you cannot get yourself out of. And it's really one of the key messages of this book, that you know what, don't fixate on the negative. Move your mindset from I can't do this to I can do this. So the more you are able to fixate on the positive, even though you have not touched it, but you also realize that let me take a step back. At times we volunteer, we do this, we do that, but we don't sit back to pull all of those things together and see how much we have in ourselves. If you are able to volunteer for this cause, if you are able to help with this cause, maybe really the Lord is letting you know where your passion is. All right. And we want to make sure that, no, I'm not going to allow what has just happened to pull me down. I'm not going to allow what has just happened, to make me stay and just, be having a pity party for myself. I'm going to actually use what has happened to me to say that, okay, what else do I have an affinity for? What else is in me that I can do? What other comments have people spoken into my life that I allow myself to bring up and say, hey, you know what, somebody did say this. Somebody did say that you are good at working with kids. Maybe I should look at having a daycare center, or something like that. So when we ensure that we do not fixate ourselves on things that brings up bitterness, things that bring up offense, then I think we are able to step out of that nest and touch on the other things that are out there for us.
Yeah, I think that's so important because
Yeah.
you hear of a lot of people who maybe lose their jobs and they spend so much time being critical of the company, the process the company went through for them to lose their jobs, and things like that. And there are so many opportunities over the last 3, 4 months that
Yeah.
some have taken advantage of and now has turned their life around for good. In fact, for some, you
Yes.
may say that generations of their family will now be financially free because they started businesses, they started things they were not doing before. And the energy, which is what I see you saying here, the energy you would have wasted fighting the organization, pour the same energy into what you're trying to do.
Yes.
These are
Well,
powerful concepts, Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you.
all right. Let me flip through the book a bit. Okay, I'm
Okay.
looking at chapter 3, and
Okay.
when talking about the need to come out of the nest in this chapter, you make a very important statement. I'll quote. You say, let me just get it properly. It says, there comes a time when you outgrow the nest, and you must surely, and out of necessity, move out of the nest in order to get to the next level. Now that's an interesting thing there, because you're saying they should come out of the nest to move to the next level. Now, there's definitely some kind of balance in that statement, so that things are not done the wrong way. Would you say?
Oh, okay. You want me to elaborate on that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. At this point, this is very, very critical, like you pointed out, because it brings in the issue of leadership. You know, at this time, because from what you have read, at times you find yourself under some leaders that I think they end up forgetting that, look, you are also equipped with something, and God might have brought you to them at the time that you were with them. or at the time that you started. But either God wanted you to learn something, it could be to learn a skill under them, to understand a process under them, while you are also giving them your support. Then it comes a time that you just, and this is also something that I've experienced, it gets to a point that you just feel that, you know what, I'm pregnant with an idea and there's no opportunity, because if I really say let me bring it out, how will it be received? But it just gets to a point that you feel that God is really nudging you, or the idea is grown so much in you that you feel that I need to give it out. That there's just the necessity to find a way to give it out. So
Doctor, let me
at
chip
that
in here on
point,
something,
oh,
because
okay.
I want you to reinforce a point that I think you are touching on here. In a lot of organizations, if people come out of that organization and they say, I want to go and start my own thing, immediately people start to talk about, oh, you are being proud. Now that we've given you opportunity, now that we've developed you, you are being proud. You are not being submissive to leadership. How do we balance that? Somebody's in the nest and is thinking, I want to do this. And the people they respect are telling them, you are being proud. You are not being submissive. How do we balance that?
It's a very hard balancing act. I will tell you, because no matter even how much you try to present it in a way that they can see that there's the need for you also to grow, because when you step out to start something, it's not rosy, and they should actually see it as a source of their own pride, that this is my product, this is my product that has come out of me. But I hate to say that at times maybe we leaders, we might be a little bit selfish. Number one. Number two, I think that at times leaders don't provide the opportunity when you are under them, or all those under them, the opportunities to be growing. You may be in a church, you may be part of, maybe you've been given the opportunity to be part of the leadership. Now if okay, like myself, having a training background, if you don't have that opportunity open to you, after some time you're going to start to feel like, look, there is more I can give here, but I'm not having the opportunity to give it there. So the individual now has to be prepared for that negative way that your leader might look at it. But also don't forget that when you step out and you make it, you become a pride for them. They are able to still say that, oh, that person was part of my mentees, I mentored that person. So when we come out, we make sure that we don't come out at the wrong season, so that we are able to be a success. Because if we come out before we're supposed to come out, then we don't succeed, because then we are not able to have to handle all the challenges, and we may not have people to go back to. So even when we leave a nest, you want to make sure that you don't burn bridges, even though mother ego, because see, mother ego is always around to make sure that you are okay, to make sure that yes, it is time, you are ready, to even encourage you, to even say you can do it, you have what it takes, you have the wings. All you need to do is to know how, when to flap it, when not to flap it, to have that opportunity. But it's always a very hard balancing act. And for you
Okay.
that you want to step out, then you must be ready to say that, I will be able to show that the Lord has blessed me with also what it takes.
Okay, so let me push this question a little bit more before we go to the next topic. So, how about somebody who say, I think we should stay with the organizational context. Somebody
Okay.
who is within an organization, their skills have been built to a level where they could really go out and start something on their own and succeed. Is it in every case where you have built your skills, your ability to a certain level that you must go out? Because some people could run into the challenge where they feel, oh, now I am this. And you start to look down on every other thing in that organization. The fact that they're developed, does that mean they need to move?
Not in all situations. Not in all situations, because, like you said, if they now start to look down on the organization that has provided the opportunity for them, then they are bringing in another element that may not actually allow them to succeed. But there are situations that, create themselves. I think it's something that the individual will know. There are some people, they just said, I'm not cut out. I know I'm now at this level. I know I do this, but I'm just not cut out. But so that becomes the individual's choice. But I think that, if really they are supposed to be out, something eventually will get them out, because we're looking at destinies here. If it is your destiny to become a president, you may support a president at a point in time. Maybe you are part of, their team, and this and that, and you just feel that, hey, I've helped. That is it, you know and you just stay there. But before you know it, if it is part of your destiny, you will end up still running into somebody that will come back and say, you know what, I think you have what it takes. you know we'll support you, we'll encourage you, you have what it takes, you are level-headed enough that I think that, you can be the head at this place. So it's not in every situation that you feel that, okay, this particular organization, like I said earlier, has provided me with the opportunity, so I've developed my gifts, I've developed my skills and everything. But if it is your destiny, if you are destined to move out of that nest, I'm convinced that, you will eventually move out of it, because it will get to a point where you are no longer in control. It's as if God steps in and said that, this is why I created you. This is the piece in my plan, in my large plan, that I want you to fulfill. And so you just, at that point, there's nothing you can do. You just have to leave. I know that's hard.
I mean, when you, I mean, going back a bit, I mean, I think the good thing about it is that, you just pray that you find yourself under good leaders, because the truth of the matter really is that, leadership in itself exists to develop others, and watch people evolve, watch them grow, and know when to let them go. So I think so many times it's being in that place where, just hoping that you're in the place where the leaders you have understand what true leadership really is.
Yeah, but I also think that on that point, the more leaders start to hear this kind of message and read this kind of books, they also start to think in their mind, I need to be developing these people. I need to be looking for openings to push them to the next level. And not just think that, well, you're the leader, you must be the one that controls everything. It's also about building these people and putting them in the right position.
Can
There's a
I?
point here,
Can
but Akin, I think maybe you wanted to touch on this next point here.
Yeah, yeah.
in
I
terms
think the doctor
of.
wanted to say she wanted to say something. Do you want to say finish what you wanted to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say that,
Sorry.
to some extent, there are some organizations that are actually trying to put that in place. And I know we will talk about this later in terms of what I'm doing now. And that is, the financial industry that I'm with. In fact, they develop you as leader in in things, in financial products and stuff like that, and all they are trying to do is get you to actually go and start your own, developing your own team, building your own team up, even though there are rewards that are attached to it. So it's like, I have my own team now. Definitely, it's encouraged that, okay, I'm a director. I need to build other people up to become directors and send them out to go and start their own. So now you are having what I even call healthy competition, that at the end of the day, and that's the leadership structure that this particular organization that I belong to, PHP, is really doing out there, bringing people in, training them in financial things, and sending them out, to train other people, develop their team, and make sure that their team is growing. But you are setting up people as leaders, all over the place. And that's one of the things that I've actually found to be very refreshing. Very, very refreshing. Your leaders are not, they don't feel like you are a threat to them or anything like that. Instead, they are providing all the trainings that you need, all the empowering, all the equipping you need for you to step out and go and start your own team also.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I'll still in chapter 3. I
Okay,
want to hammer in on one of the action points that you wrote there. You said
okay.
each time you confine yourself to the comfort zone, it becomes difficult to hear God's call. Why do you say that?
Because, if God has an assignment for you, but you already feel that, hey, I'm comfortable here, you feel that everything is working fine, and yet God is saying, I have an assignment for you. God is saying, you need to relocate, because there's a group of people that I need you to minister to, that you have what it takes, you have the persona of what it takes, that these people will listen to you. But you are looking at just yourself and saying that, oh, why should I make myself uncomfortable? Why should I move? So as a result, we are focusing more on ourselves and what we are engaged in at that time, that we are not hearing God say, I need you somewhere. If we go back to the Bible, Paul had the dream of the man saying, come over to Macedonia and help us. If Paul was more concerned with, oh, this is where I need to stay, this is where I need to be preaching, this is where I need, but God is saying that, there are some people in Macedonia, they need you. So why do you want to stay here when people in Macedonia need you? And that is what I was trying to the point I was trying to drive at, there. So,
Okay.
if we've committed our lives to God, we want to stay connected to Him so that we know we are walking in the fulfillment of His plans for our lives.
Okay. Okay. So maybe this is from your experience, and
Okay.
how you from dealing with loads of people. Would you say that deep down inside, we all know when we're meant to leave the nest?
I think so. I think so. When I reflect back on my life, I stayed in one church for 21 years, and it just got to a point that I was part of leadership, and like we have been talking about, I felt, I needed the opportunity to step out. I wanted to still stay in that church, but I wanted to actually step out to be able to do more. And so, I had to ask for sabbatical leave. I said, I asked for sabbatical leave, but again, like we have talked about, it probably didn't go very well, but I still asked for the leave. And at that point, I had the opportunity, to visit other places, to visit other churches, to, and just feed myself while I was also saying, Lord, what's the next for me? Lord, what do you want me to do? If I'm to continue to stay here, let me know, which area you want me to be useful in this environment. So I think it really does. It gets to a point that you just feel that, okay, maybe you were just assigned there to be part of foundation building. Maybe you are just assigned there to be part of those that will put on the window frames. And once the window frames are finished, the Lord is saying, go to another place and help with foundation. Or maybe you are going to stay there until it is time to put the roofs in. But again, I believe now that once our assignment is finished in a place, the Lord will move us forward. The Lord will take us out of that nest for the next assignment, which might be the next nest for us. And this is some of the things that, also on my website, COmegaConsulting.com, we do have a blog page. And some of these things are things that we are going to continue to be talking about, on the blog page.
Okay. Now, before we as we start to round up,
Okay.
there's I think one thing that I'm seeing out of this book is there are a lot of powerful statements that make one think and think and think again. There's this statement here where you said the sun never remains in the background. When the sun shines, all eyes see it. In the same vein, you can't remain in the nest and you must come out to soar. And one thing that struck me there is what you have touched on a little bit, the understanding of seasons. The understanding of seasons. So many times people jump out of season. And because they jump out of season, they will experience pain that they shouldn't have experienced. Have you seen that? Do you recognize that kind of situation?
Yes, because when you come out at the wrong time, if you don't again have some proper grounding, because challenges will come, are you prepared to face it? Are you equipped to face it? Are you going to say, oh, I thought it was like this? That is coming, when you come out of the seasons. You also may not have all the supports that you need. So it is very important, again, to just know from what, when you go through this book, some of the tools that are there of things that you need to do, that you go back and say, okay, is this the season for me? Is this my season, Lord? Again, coming from our link. And if somebody even says that, I don't believe in God, I'm not guided by God, well, can you still sit back and assess the things around you, so that you know that, okay, if I run into this roadblock, how am I going to overcome it? If I come to this hurdle, how high must I jump in order to, get to the other side? Because the other thing that comes out also of that statement is the fact that, if you remain in the nest, your potentials do not show. Or your potentials, you only have limited opportunity to demonstrate your potentials. You only have limited opportunity to show your gifts. And the Lord says that our gifts will make room for us. So if you have those gifts that, are laying hidden because you are still in the nest, the destiny helper that God needs to connect you to, you may not have the opportunity to meet them. So that is part of the other thing that I was looking at, that came to my mind when I was writing that part, that it is true. Our gifts will make room for us, but if we're still stuck in the nest, there's no, the amount of that gift being exposed is actually limited. But you see, when your gifts are going to make room for you, it might just be that maybe you love to sing, and you just volunteer to sing at somebody's birthday party, and somebody just sees you and said, wow, you sing so well, I can record you, come to my studio. But if you are still in a nest where you didn't even have the courage to go out and sing at somebody's birthday, that gift is hidden with you. And maybe you cannot even be part of the choir in the church, because there are just certain things you have to go through to end up being a member of that choir. So that is what I mean, that your glory might be kind of covered up if you stay too long in a nest that you shouldn't be.
You know something, Dr. Idowu, that is really, really hitting me here as we talk about this thing, is there's so many stories of people who have been in deprived situations, people who have been, there was one I saw recently of a young boy. It was raining. He most likely had been watching people dancing ballet, and he was doing it barefooted in the rain. And somebody saw that clip on social media and said, what dedication? I want to pay for this boy's education to university level or something like that. And sometimes we see that people in the nest always take that point as temporary, and therefore don't give it their all. Do you see that?
It happens because people want to react to the fact that, oh, if I show everything, then they will not allow me to leave. But also, we are supposed to give our best wherever we are, because when we are giving our best to where we are, when the time comes for you to move, there will be a way that you get paid back, because you're already used to giving your best. Then somehow you will run into people who recognize that and are ready to help you to do more of that, to push you forward.
Okay. Well, we've practically run out of time once
Oh
again.
wow! Oh wow!
But
Is it 1 hour
before
already?
we go, it's almost there. But before we go, I'm going to ask, what's new? What's new with you at the moment? What are you doing? What do you want to tell the world about that you're doing at the moment?
Oh, okay. Thank you for that. It's been a great time with you guys. Now, there are almost like two, three things that I'm also interested in, that I'm pursuing, and all of this actually is also on my website, sitsomegaconsulting.com. And I'm looking, number one, the financial industry that I told you about. Making sure that I get my own team, making sure that I expose them, then they go out and we make money in the process. Of course, they also go out and teach people more about money. How does money work? So for me, it makes it to become the total man that we're looking at: the health, the spiritual aspect, and now the finances. Because if you don't have money, it hits you. If you lose money in stock market, it hits you. So teaching people how money works, that is the first thing. Number two, we are running what we call a crusade with my marketing consultant. A young lady has been very, very useful, and encouraging. So the crusade is that, we're starting this hashtag Leave the Nest to Soar, and we are encouraging people to share their stories of the nest that they came out of, and hashtag it Leave the Nest to Soar, so that their own stories also will encourage somebody else. Their own stories too will be able to challenge other people. So we have, that's the second thing that we have going. And of course, our blog page on my website, that is also going to really be active, where we might take a health issue and talk about a health issue, because like I said, the total man. We may take a spiritual issue and talk about it, and we look at the financial issue and also talk about it, and also be a resource page to people that they can connect with. But really, like I said, for this book, I love it. I'm in love with it. Of course, I wrote it, and because I want it to be an interactive thing. We were hoping that we could be having workshops and seminars, but even with this age, you can still just walk through this book as if I'm there with you, because there is, like we have said, the structures are there, the tools are there. If you just have the courage to rise, to get up and start to put those little things. What are your thoughts? The thought, and we say, be mindful of your thoughts, be mindful of the people that you surround yourself with, positive people that want you to go to the next level. And accountability, living a life of accountability to yourself and to people who are important in your life. But I believe so much in it that yes, if you leave that nest, indeed you will soar to the highest level that God is going to make available for you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Doctor, for
Thank you.
joining us today.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
We are so grateful. And we'll join you back in the virtual studio in a few minutes as we just
Okay.
wrap this up. Um, Akin, this happens every week. Yes, get the book. Get the book.
Nice.
Get out there, get the book. Fortunately, there is a Kindle edition. Get the Kindle edition. You can start reading that immediately from that Kindle edition. So I will happily recommend this book. We published it, and we have a guiding principle here that if we pick a book and we publish the book, it means we believe the message. So it's not just about doing it for a business sake. We believe the message is why we published the
That's
book
right.
in the first place.
Yeah.
Aki, any last words for our viewers before we go?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I mean, this book is full of motivation, and it's, I mean, just read it. I mean, it's just how many pages? It's just about 105 pages.
Yeah, absolutely.
You understand? It's nothing big and all that, but there's so much within it that will take you to another level. Definitely take you to another level.
Yes. Action items at the back of it. And that bit about declarations is that is faith. That is the message of
Yeah.
faith. You take the word, you imbibe it, and then you speak it out.
Yeah.
And that process of speaking it out reinforces the message. We've run out of time. We've got to go now. Thank you for joining, and we will see
Thank
you
you.
again next week for another exciting episode. Thank you. God bless you.
Bye.
Bye.